Hi! So today we are continuing our Bryan Danielson AEW run match catalogue. Last week he had a match against Evil Uno to build the Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page title feud during Dynamite last week. This Dynamite, it's in Chicago. We confirmed it last week. And we are facing Colt Cabana in Chicago for Bryan Danielson match number 14, I think it is. So, the match opens up with, obviously, Colt. Colt coming out with the entire Dark Order. Bryan coming out. Bryan instantly looks a lot less thrilled. And he always looks, like, made up to be out in AEW crowds when he makes his entrance. This time he looked quite stern-faced. Still, playing for the crowd. There's some boos, still mostly cheers. The match wasn't long. The match basically was, the start of it, Bryan was just joint manipulating Colt. And basically getting the better of him. And then, when he worked the kicks in and stuff, it was just proven effective. There's this move where he was getting the arm, because he wouldn't let go of the arm with the joint manipulation. He was obviously doing the arm and then keeping hold of it. And he just, not even kick, but just put his foot on the back Colt's leg, forcing him to go down. It was just great technical wrestling, as you expect from Bryan. The character work, again, is on point. It's more established now he's a heel. So it's more, I like that, so he didn't have to focus so much like he did on the Evil Uno match. This is more of a technical wrestling bout. Obviously, Colt Cabana with the ROH background with Bryan Danielson. Colt Cabana was never the wrestler Bryan Danielson is, but, who is? But point is, even the crowd still isn't fully turned on Bryan. They do start, there is a point where they do start cheering for Colt ridiculously. And it's it's insane. It's they start going, oh, Colt Cabana. I think it's the loudest Colt's ever been cheered in his life. But after that, really, Bryan basically sets up a bunch of moves. They all basically come off for the first period of the match. The main one that basically gives Colt the advantage is Bryan sends Colt to the corner of the ring. And he sets up that, I don't even think it's the Psycho Knee. It looked like the Psycho Knee, but it might not have been. But Colt moves out the way. And Bryan just goes flying into the top turnbuckle, flapping on his back. Colt's, seen visibly happy. So Colt still tries to get him, gets a few chops in. It clearly takes Bryan back. But then Bryan, Colt does his charge move. It's like a shoulder barge charge move. It was weird. And while Bryan's in the corner. And then Bryan dodges it. And then does the, basically, belly to back. I don't even think it was belly to back. The move. Whatever. It's late. I forget the move name. Bryan basically gets on top for him again. And then the main thing is, at the end, Bryan gets him on the top turnbuckle. And then he obviously goes for a powerbomb, but Colt reverses it, getting some elbows in on Bryan. And then Bryan falls off the top rope, or off the top turnbuckle. Colt lands a moonsault on Bryan. Bryan does kick out. Then this does turn a tiny bit of a Colt, run. The crowd starts believing, starts getting some chops in. Bryan reverses one again, does some joint manipulation, gets him on the ground by the knee kick again. And then sets it up for the kick in the fucking head in, which he said he would do before the match even started. He said this last week, he's going to kick Colt's head in. He proceeds to kick Colt's head in, and then he gets the crossface in straight away. But before he does the crossface, while he's got it in, Colt's still down. He just flexes and then gets it in, and Colt just taps not long. I don't think it taps, I think the ref calls it. But the ref's screaming in Bryan's face to let go, and Bryan just looks at him, laughing. Not even laughing, just smiling at him you can't do shit. And then basically gets off Colt. And it's shown after the match, he kicked Colt's teeth out. Kicked one of Colt's, and then he finds a second. He kicked two of Colt's teeth out. It was insane. It was brutal, and I love it. The crowd's turned on Bryan at this point. Not ridiculous heat, but the guy's clearly getting booed at this point, so it's a shame for me. But you all know how much I love heel Bryan. It's the best shit. But after this, he gets the mic, and Shivani's in the ring with him, and he said, basically, Chicago is booing him now. And he goes, listen, my debut was in Chicago. I got a much better reaction than I did now. And that makes you think, is this me or you? And then he goes, I think it's you, because if it is you, I've got one word for it, and that's fickle. And I'm not fickle. Then he goes on to say, I said I'd kick Evil Uno's head in. I did. I said I'd kick Colt Cabana's head in, and I kicked his fucking teeth out. Brutal. And then he goes, and next week we're in, I forget where he says, and there's a couple of Dark Order members from there, and he'll kick their asses too. And then he'll eventually work his way up to kicking Hangman's ass. When he says that, Hangman comes out. He comes out in his gear, because Bryan gave him the excuse last week that he didn't want to fight him there and then because he weren't in the gear. Comes in the gear with the belt. calls Bryan out, and then and then he basically says, "I'll have a match right here, right now." And Bryan goes, "I'm not gonna fight right now because I've just had a match." So Hangman goes, "Well, I'm not coming here. I'm not leaving without a fight, regardless if it's a match. And just because you've had a match, I'll make it fair. I'll let you have the first strike." And he goes like this, like hands behind the back, up to Bryan. And this, I love this. This encapsulates all of heel Bryan that I love. And Bryan just looks at him, and he just goes, "Don't you insult me like that," like patronize, like he's disgusted he's thought of that. Like, you could dare do that to me, Bryan Danielson, the greatest of all time. Bryan slaps the shit out of his face, turns into a little scuffle. Bryan sends him towards the ropes. Then Hangman's on the apron. Hangman kicks him. Bryan goes back, and then Hangman goes to the buckshot, set up perfectly. Bryan runs out the ring, and then he's looking like, not bewildered, but, like, okay, this is on, like, I've got to think of a new strategy. Basically, Hangman looks better than what I thought he did. And yeah, that was the end of the segment in the match. Overall, the match was solid. 5-minute match, what you expect. Good show up for Bryan, as always. He's never going to lose to Colt Cabana. I like how they still continued. It wasn't so much discussed, and I kind of like that because it is kind of respecting Colt, who he is from the ROH background. But then Evil Uno to him is a joke, and I love that. I love that they kept that. The segments after I really liked. It wasn't too long. It was Bryan and Hangman interact, because Bryan said he'll kick all of Dark Order's ass until Hangman, and Hangman said no more after this. That was the last one. So I don't know where it goes from here. I think I've got them all set out, but I forget off the top of my head. But point is, it's getting really good. The Hangman and Bryan rivalry is getting more juicy. They're interacting a lot more. So I love it. And again, heel Bryan is the shit. But yeah, a shorter match this week and a good little segment to follow it, building up the match, eventual match. Some more, which we're not going to complain about. And the Dark Order still getting eviscerated by Bryan Danielson, which is great to see. So what did you think of this match? What do you think of Colt Cabana? And what do you think of heel Bryan Danielson? Because I don't think I've asked that yet. Because I love the guy.